Welcome, Hearties. This is the official admins chat that we call Heart to Hearties. I'm Chelsea from Puerto Rico.
I'm Kim from Barrie, Ontario.
I'm Marg from San Diego, California.
And we are so excited because we are joined by the writer of episode 11 titled Run to You, Derek Thompson.
Yay.
Hi, thanks for having me. Good to see everyone.
So, as I mentioned, episode 11. So, do you have a favorite moment from last night's episode? Like, Hearties are super excited. They are over the moon about it today. So, we had a little bit of everything. We had like some action and of course some romance and just overall just amazing performances. So, do you have a favorite moment?
Yeah, without a doubt, the final moment. I think in so many ways, I tip my hat to the actors and our director, and they just made that work so well. I said to Aaron last night, that's as close to a perfect scene as I've seen performed on the show. Yeah, I can't think of many others that are right there with it, but there are a few. But I mean, that's right up there. I thought they just nailed it. The pace of it, the tone of it was so good. I was so happy with that. So, and a lot of, as you all know, that when we do a big thing like that, the input is from everywhere, and I can't tell you how many different drafts of that scene there were. So to see it all come together like that, I mean, it brought something new to me, and I was part of the writing of it. So I'm really happy with how that ended. I was blown away, and I've seen it before too, and I was still blown away. So kudos to the actors and the folks that got it done.
It
You
was
had
really amazing.
it was amazing. You had mentioned that you had done a lot of drafts, and so last night I was trying to think, were the drafts the action scenes or were the drafts for the love scene? Was it both or wow,
Everything.
everything? You just had to write everything over and over.
Yeah, there were drafts where there was no kiss. There were drafts where they don't see each other after the
Holy
takedown
cow.
draft. Like I can't even describe them all. And I knew we were kind of veering in this direction. And once we got there, once we knew what the ending was going to be, then it was really all hands on deck. And I have to give a lot of credit to Aaron for coming up with a lot of the sentiments in that monologue, and doing a lot of that heavy lifting, because I think we all just had to kind of work together to find that, and to make it feel right. And Peter, our director, Peter DeLuise, just captured that in a beautiful way. So yeah, that's definitely in my top five favorite scenes. That's right up there. It was really well done. I'm really
Well, we
happy.
have a lot of questions coming towards the end. We're going to torture Hearties and make them wait, just like you did. Wait until the very end of the show for us to talk about it. We have other stuff we want to dive into, though.
Okay.
Right. We're going to start off at the beginning because it started with some setup. We hear relief that the resort isn't happening and that the towns don't have to merge. And we hear that Rosemary's in the dark. And so is Elizabeth about who shot Lucas. We learned that the telephone and the telegraph lines are down. Crazy. Plunging Hope Valley into peril. Really creating the suspense, and that no one has an idea what Shaw even looks like. So if he's in town, they don't even know it. But perhaps most importantly, Bill and Rosemary throw Elizabeth and Nathan under the bus for moving way too slowly. How fun was that to create this tortuously slow pace and then have your characters ribbing them about the pace?
We were kind of taking on the role of the Hardys, kind of ribbing us for taking so long. So we were channeling that, I think.
So
I think,
true.
it's we knew we wanted to do that, and a lot of people wanted us to do that. And a lot of the notes that we get were, like, let's just take our time, because that's what TV's all about, is making people want it and wait for it. And so we figure if we're going to do that, we might as well have fun with it, and talk about it openly. But all right, you two, let's get going here. So that was fun, and to do that in this episode with this simmering tension of who's coming, what's coming, trouble on the horizon. It was kind of fun to pair those together, and sometimes those kind of episodes don't work very well, and in this case it paired nicely, like they kind of complemented each other. So yes, sometimes it's hard to balance a really heavy, action-packed show with the lighter stuff, and I think we sort of bookend it in a nice way. So yeah, I was really happy with how it turned out. Lots of fun. I mean, that was one of the more fun episodes to write. And I got a lot of practice at it because dozens of drafts later.
Um, the line "moving slower than molasses in January" was such a great one, and so perfect for Bill Avery. I'd love to see what Jack's reaction was when he read that he was going to be saying that.
Well, that's his bread and butter. He loves those lines
Yeah.
because he delivers them so well. But yeah, that was a line that my grandpa used to say to me all the time back in the day. So I think I was slow as molasses at times. But you know, for Bill, you just give him those lines and they sing. So
He's
anytime,
great at it.
yeah.
From the input we've had from Hearties, this was a decidedly popular sentiment. Henry saying bye-bye to Edwin, and then refusing to shake his hand. How much fun was that to see in the dailies?
So much fun because it was one of my favorite scenes in the very first draft, and it went away for a while. There was a decision
Oh,
to take
Oh,
it. Things happen, episodes go long, and it wasn't the priority of the. But I knew that it was the perfect kind of scene for Gowan because it just showed saying very little. It just showed his loyalty.
yeah.
It showed how he can just, with a cutting remark, can reduce somebody like that who's only thinking of himself and no one else.
Mhm.
It just hit all the marks for me. So I was glad it finally made it back in because it felt like the right place for it. I got Gowan is Lucas's man to the bitter end, which was great.
Even
Yeah.
though he didn't want to be. Like, I
No.
just want to play with my hazelnut trees.
And I feel like we know that Henry has been on this like journey and he's changed so much. But here in this moment, it's like, oh right, this is Henry Gowan. He knows how to deal with
Yeah.
what's happening, and he's going to defend or be on Lucas's side. So I kind of like thought
Yeah.
about.
Well, he starts to embrace the underdog, rather than keeping the underdog down like he did in season one. He kind of embraces them now, and so it just shows the complete turn for him. I mean, yes, Lucas is the governor and everything else and a powerful man, but he is an underdog in this moment because he's struggling. So yeah, it just felt like the right time for that kind of. And it's not something that he would openly say or do in front of Lucas because he doesn't want to take credit for things. He's a reluctant friend, like a reluctant ally, I guess. So, and then Martin takes those scenes and makes them something totally beautiful. So always happy.
yeah, his loyalty was perfectly clear. And I loved that he was like, and it's Governor Bouchard to you. It's like
Yeah.
that felt so West Wing to me. Was that a Paul moment or was that vintage Derek?
Well, that one was mine. I'm sure Paul would love that one, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was
Very
it
cool.
just felt like the perfect cutting remark as he
It
walks
was
away.
a great exit line.
Yeah.
Well, all of that set up my favorite scene of the night. May gets a letter from her brother. So we know that he's only in town for a few days before he's out to sea again for many years. Can you tell us how you conceived of the merchant marine brother and his visit creating the urgency for a proposal, presumably a wedding in the next episode? I think if not for May's brother, this courtship could have gone on for a long time.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. we looked for something that would kind of jumpstart that relationship and push Hickam into maybe an uncomfortable, scary situation where he just has to propose. We don't doubt how he feels about her, but whether or not he would go that early and take a bold step like that. So yeah, we came up with the brother who came up with different reasons why it would be so rare that he could see them, and so we thought the Merchant Marine was an interesting way to go, and yeah, it was just a way to get them together. Hopefully, we meet the brother. That would be great. Look at me.
Yeah, I look forward to that, hopefully. And we love that Mike went for it, even without a ring. And even if he had to do it with one eye closed, and I don't even think I could do that. I don't know if he had that skill before or whether he practiced that. Oh, it was wonderful.
He's so good at just
Yeah.
the physical manipulations of his face, and he's a very I don't know what the term is for that.
Very expressive.
Yeah, expressive actor, and that plays into why he's so good with comedy, because he can just express all these different things. But yeah, that was, when I wrote that, I think the way I wrote it was he's afraid to open his eyes because he doesn't know what she's going to say, and when he looks up, she's crying, and says yes. So they did that really, perfectly. It was great.
And did you add that there was no ring, and
Yeah.
that he asked her if she was sure? Because that was so Hickam.
She just doesn't care and wants to kiss him, and
So sweet.
that's all she cared
It
about.
was
Yeah.
wonderful.
Very brilliant. Especially like seeing who their characters are, especially Mike. It's like a very Hickam proposal, like very
Yeah.
sweet.
Oh, it was
I
so
mean-
sweet, and yeah, not really well thought out, but he wins in the end.
He did have the right spot, though.
Yeah.
Hearties had been predicting that garden arch was going to be a part of a proposal all season.
There it is.
Somebody's proposal had to be by that garden arch, or a kiss, or something happened. We got all that. We got a proposal. We got a kiss. It was lovely.
It's like production bought it, so we better do something.
I
There you go.
know. Right. So little Lily, drawing the stars that she counted from her grandmother's house, from her bedroom at her grandmother's house. She's clearly processing this transition that she's going through. Talk to us about the nightlight and how what was that to accomplish in this episode. It was really dear. I love the town sort of like, mini, it's like our Lily, it's like, it's beautiful.
It's, I have when I wrote that, I had a 3-year-old daughter who was, going through that phase of life where you're a little afraid at night. And so we were going through all the sleeping, iterations and trying to help her be comfortable at night. And we ended up landing on this little nightlight that shines stars on the ceiling and turns as it goes. So I just stole from, like I do with a lot of things in my life, I guess. I pulled it from there because she was just so happy with it. It worked so well. It just made her feel relaxed and kind of not alone. And so yeah, we wanted to really honor how Lily might feel. As wonderful as Faith is, it's still a change, and it's not the same. And for kids, that's hard. So just like my daughter with closing the door and the lights being low was scary. It's the same for Lily. Just give her something that takes her into a happy place, and it works. And very small little story. It was a bit bigger in the early drafts, but I think it just kind of came together nicely. It's really sweet.
Well, especially when you had established early in the season that it was about the stars aligning. And so this felt like this was a night when a lot of stars were aligning. So
yeah. It all comes to see.
See?
You just did my job for me there.
No, you did your job over many drafts. We're just noticing it. So it's amazing. This episode was Pascal Hutton at her finest. I mean, the scene in the street with Rosemary yelling at Bill, I loved it so much. And we have our new favorite swear word, sassafras. I mean, it's so good. Talk to us about that through line, Rosemary being, angry that she's getting scooped all season long and, working with Bill and tracking this story. And then suddenly there's a fracture in this partnership that she's established. Wow. I mean, you really built that up. Talk to us about
Yeah,
that.
we wanted to give some shape to it. We didn't want it to always be smooth sailing. So early on, it was some tension and he didn't want to get involved. He wants to do things his way and he's not a partner with anybody. And then finally he comes around and she wins him over and they have some successes together, but then he's, constrained by her own safety, really, as he was saying, like, I can't involve you in certain things. Like, I don't want you to get in too deep here. And so we knew it was going to build to something because this is Rosemary and, she is the best, sidekick he could have, and he's the best sidekick she could have. But, she's also Rosemary. And so she was going to want things a certain way. And when she didn't get them and felt left out, I think it was just her frustration and knowing she could help. And he wasn't letting her. But also feeling like it might slip away and, you're so close to something. So we didn't know how that would turn out. And I'll admit, when I first saw the dailies, I thought, wow, she's mad. But when I watched it through, it was kind of like, yeah, when you think about every episode and the amount of work she's put into this together and by herself, yeah, I'd be mad too. And
Really?
I thought it was so fun and great.
Yeah.
I love them as a pair. I think they're a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Yeah. And in the end, not telling her did endanger her. So it was like,
Yes.
hello, everybody neglected to tell her. And so she got completely, yeah.
Yeah. The moral is listen to Rosemary and you'll be fine. That's all you
Sassafras. I mean, come on.
Isn't that good? That wasn't mine. I can't remember when
Oh,
maybe we'll give that one to Pascal. I can't remember. Maybe Beth did a pass on it at one point. Anyway, there's someone
great.
else can take credit for that, and it was perfect. I thought
Yeah.
it was.
And then she had this remarkable recent vacancy. So Randall Rockwell ended up being a partner. Who had the brainchild to come up with that to team them?
I think we were referencing him so much. He was just this, we've seen him before, obviously, but
Yes.
but you're referencing him. We figured don't reference somebody over and over unless you're going to see him. And so either he could come into town and gloat, but we figured, Rosemary has put in the legwork here. She should get the win. Oh, and she's one of ours. And so what would be a fun twist in that? And then, okay, we'll get him into some trouble. He comes to her first thinking, hey, pal, let's get into business together and work on this. But really, he's in trouble. He's maybe gotten in a little too deep. So we thought that was fun. And then he kind of came in handy getting out of town and being the inadvertent alert to the others. So we love that actor. We think he's a lot of fun, and I'm sure he'll be back in some form. Keep that competition going.
I love that scene where he's like complimenting her and she's like, oh, you did like my work or whatever. It's like they have the governor sitting right there and they're like, she's just like wallowing in the fact that he's looked up to her and her work. And he's like, did you want to talk to me? It was great. It was great.
Lucas played that so
well.
They played really well, the comedy of it. And then this is just okay. Let's
like stop with the love fest. Let's move on with business. So yeah, it was fantastic.
I don't think Chris was. I think kind of a bug went around set at that time, and some people were not feeling great. And I think Chris was not feeling great at that time.
No!
Kind of shows just like
she's like, let's move this scene along. Wow.
So Hardy Karen Van Brocklin Nenig of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, says she loved the curveball of Janette being Shaw. And also we have Avis Noble of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and Heather Hood of Minneapolis. They wonder how long ago you imagined that, Janette began to create that persona of Casimir Shaw. And what was it that she hoped to accomplish that first night when Lucas won the governorship?
Well, if they're asking how long before this season in story world,
Yeah.
we
Right.
figure somewhere in between when Lucas knew her, maybe a few years after that, when Lucas knew her back, when they lived in the States together, before they moved up, or before they separated and went their own way. Somewhere in there, she got involved in, the criminal element and figured out a way to rise to the top. We don't know all those maneuvers, but we figure she, probably some underhanded things. But I think we always wanted to hold on to the idea that this is Lucas. This is the Lucas we know, and who's a decent person. And he may have made mistakes, and he may have done the wrong thing at the time, but he is a decent person. So if he saw something in her back then, there is something decent about her too. So my guess would be that things happened beyond her control that kind of led her to this point in her life, and then like the story of so many criminals that they just get thrown into it and don't know how to get out. And I think that plays towards the ending, the resolution between Lucas and Janette. But what she wanted to get out of the governor, I mean, I think she had a whole cover plan where she was the victim and using this, Shaw, the fellow that was with her, to just muscle some favors out of the governor. And then that went horribly wrong. And I think that goes to show that she doesn't want to be heavy-handed. She doesn't want to hurt people. It was all just a threat. And she was hoping that she could just reason with him, and then it just went drastically sideways. So and we were more drawn to a character like that than someone who's just awful. We wanted somebody that's sort of, gray. She's a bad person. She'll go to jail. She did some things that are not great, but we can almost kind of see some humanity in her, and we do that through Lucas. So yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just kind of speculation of things. When we had a board of the backstories of these people, and for many months, Shaw was real and changed to Janette. It was just like, it's one of those stories you find over time, and you find that sweet spot, you hope. And then it just came together, and yeah, we're happy with how it turned out.
It's super interesting.
I think, yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
Hearties, I think, were really surprised. I think most were really surprised. I think they really didn't expect that. So
Yeah.
that was
The fact that it was
Seemed to
her.
be a lot of questions like that on Twitter and stuff. Like they were just blown away that it was her. And whenever we can do that, we've succeeded. Because I thought maybe we would have tipped it a few times and people would be onto it. But although I saw some crime boards that people had come up with, and a couple of them I think were veering that direction, but a lot of them I saw a lot of Edwins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
He looks like a cold-blooded killer, that guy, I tell you. That's what Gavin knows. If I treat him
well, yeah. I mean, I did feel like last week when it was like, okay, Casimir Shaw, like it was so wrapped up, and it was like, it felt a little lame last week. And so I was like, there's got to be something else. They got something else up their sleeve, and you totally did. Wow.
I was saying like, what? That's it? Oh my
That's
God.
it?
That's a good shot though. Someone told me, that's it? That's all it is? But I really like that shot. It was that shot of the town from the road when he drops her off.
Totally.
Right. Yeah.
I agree. That's such a cool shot, which I don't know if we've ever seen before. But yeah, they're like, that's it. How can that be it? That's it. Right. We've got him.
Yeah.
Well
gotta
done.
say that this now that you said that shot, this season has had a lot of those like really interesting shots, like different, like shot from different angles than what has been usually done. So that's really cool.
Yeah, directors have done a great job. I mean, it's hard to keep a 12 or 11 season
Yeah.
show fresh,
Mhm.
um, because it's easy to get into a groove where we do this shot and this shot and this shot, but they really have gone out of their way to try to expand the world. I mean, I work there, I've been there, and I've spent a lot of time there, and sometimes they'll show something I don't quite know where it is, and that's good because for the audience, that just makes the town feel a little bit fuller on
Bigger.
the
Yeah.
elbows. Yeah. So, yeah, love our directors. They
And it's
deserve love.
Andrew Coppin or Copin that's the
So,
director of photography. So hats off
yeah,
to him. He's been
I
there a
think he's been
while.
around since season one. I mean, definitely season two, I think.
Yeah.
I was
So
on set with him in season three, so he's been around a long time. Good at what
yeah,
he
to
does.
bring us some, to bring us really new and different things this many seasons in,
Yeah.
obviously it applies to the writers too, but the cinematography this year, yeah, we've really enjoyed seeing all these different spots.
Oh yeah. There's nothing funnier than a cinematographer talking to a writer in the tent, and they're talking like the technical stuff, and writers all just like, yeah, yeah, do that. That's perfect. Wonderful.
So, in this episode, there were some intercut scenes. So, talk to us about writing those. So, they were amazing. Uh, it enabled like Nathan, Bill, and Lucas, as well as Rosemary, to come to the same conclusion at the same time about that Janette was Shaw. So, we had that moment with the guys, and then we cut back to Rosemary, and they're realizing it at the same time. So first explain to Hearties what an intercut is, and then tell us how you conceived, was that actually something that you thought of and you wrote it that way, or was it something that was like a director's choice?
Yeah. Well, an intercut is basically we write it in the script so that you kind of start two scenes. You'll start one and then you'll go intercut with, and then another scene, and then it allows you, once you say intercut with, then you can just bop between the two scenes back and forth. And writers love it because you don't have to keep putting the big, heavy title, like the slug line of the location every time. And we're always fighting the page length, so you get rid of those. It makes it shorter. And then, yeah, you just go back and forth and back and forth. And it's a great way to tell a story that where like two different kind of storylines are converging, or people in different places. We use them for telephone calls. So it's really handy that way. And in this case, I think pretty early on in the process, we went with that. Um, I don't know if it was in the first drafts, but we kind of veered into it because it just felt like the right type of scenes to do it. Like just this dawning on them that, oh my gosh, right in front of us is Shaw. Oh, and we've set up obviously the stakes for that, and the stakes of our Mountie being out of town and or on the outskirts of town, and then we have people that are in jeopardy in town, and it just felt like the perfect way to get to that realization. And then you give a lot of credit to the editors to snip that together in the right way and the right timing and everything. And so yeah, those are fun. We seem to be doing a lot of those lately, and we're writing the new season right now. We're allowed to say that, right? You're not going to cut me. Yeah, yeah, we're allowed to say that. Uh, and we do a lot of those scenes because they're just snappy. Like they just kind of, and sometimes you can do them for fun, where you just get the comic, element of this person's finishing that person's
Yeah.
question, the wrong question. And uh, I just wrote one, I won't say who, but it's a bit of a spat between two people, and the resolution of it, them talking to some friends about the spat, and you're just like, they're kind of answering the other friend's question as they go because they're both sort of on the same page. So they're really handy. We use them all the time, and in situations like this, they really work.
Oh, so fun.
Yeah.
Interesting. So Lucas said earlier that Janette did not like violence. And in the end, she did hesitate, to follow through with her threats. So Hardy Janine Walden Powers of Bristol, Virginia asked, why in the writer's mind did Lucas hug Janette at the end?
I think a little bit of what I was just talking about is that we do see some good in her. And I think he once saw good in her and realizes that the only way she's arrived in this situation in her life, it must be from, forces outside of her own control and some of her own doing, which she'll pay for. But I think he once saw the good in her and felt a connection with her. And if they would have maybe taken different paths, they could have found a way, together. But she was veering one way, he was veering the other. They were both kind of on the run a little bit. And so I think it was just kind of a signal that, and almost a goodbye, like this will be the last one. And after all that time. So, and all those adventures and whatever they had gone through together back in the day, they may be kind of enemies now, but they weren't always. So, yeah, I think, also in a scene like that where you have a standoff, the challenge is to give everybody some sort of uh effect on the situation. So, the Mountie's coming in the window and he's ready to take this person, and Bill comes through the door, but there's other ways to do. And, Lucas is the one that had to sort of talk her down and distract her enough to, have the others make a move. And, Elizabeth and Rosemary did their part too. So everyone in that scene sort of plays a little role in resolving it. And that was, I think Lucas knew she would never shoot him ever. Like like she may be bad and she may have done bad things, and she hires guys like this Shaw character with her, but she would never shoot him. I think he knew that. So yeah,
That I have to say that scene was amazing. I was blown away by um Chris and the actress, I think her name is Cecilia. Um just it felt like really authentic and very I don't know, deep.
yeah,
It was really great scene, and of course the writing was great, and it was a very complete scene from what I saw, and you could feel that tension, but also Lucas actually, like, in a part, like, caring for her. And
yeah.
so yeah, it was awesome.
It was one of those scenes that developed a lot over time, and I think we were always having trouble with it, and something wasn't right about it, and something wasn't right. But once we added a bit of humanity with her and Lucas, like we always say, like, what's this lacking? And When Calls the Heart, what's this lacking? And it's usually like, what's the heart? What is that thing? What do we care about? What can we relate to? We can't relate necessarily to gangsters and things, but we can relate to two people that once had a special relationship, and the memories are there, and now it's goodbye. Like we can sort of get there. And once we added that, that felt a little more complete. So yeah, all the writers kind of jumped on board with that, and we got a lot of input from the actors and the director and everything. So it was one of those that just came together finally, I think, and we were happy with it.
I was definitely holding my breath.
Yeah, that's great.
There's a great photo in the Facebook page, or series of photos of a family during that scene who were like, the kids are like under the blanket and they're pulled down into their eyes. The cutest thing. It's just like, yeah, there was one woman I saw today who said she stood through the entire episode. Like every time she went to sit down, she was like, sit down. Yeah. So it did keep us.
It's easy to
On our
forget,
toes.
like that the audience doesn't, they're not privy to what the outcome is. So it could be anything. Like it could be any one of these people that has a gun around them could get themselves into trouble. And yeah, without having that, you really need to be on it. So it's our job to kind of just like, okay, what are all the different ways we can put people on edge without causing widespread panic. And I'm glad it worked that way. It's those are always our toughest scenes, those kind of lots of different moving parts and people, finding this. But if you can infuse a little bit of heart, again, I'll say it for the lack of a better term, if you can put something meaningful like that in there, it just helps it. It just makes it real and makes it blossom a little bit.
Wow. When we last spoke to Paul Redford, he said that it's classic writer's approach to drive a character up a tree and then throw rocks at him. And that you all weren't done at that time throwing rocks at Lucas. So we're wondering now if you're done with that. It would have been nice to see Lucas and Henry together in that montage at the end, because we're all hoping that we might get a glimpse of him happy after such a tough season.
Oh yeah, I mean, we definitely, that's an interesting choice of words by Paul. I like that. That's good. Yeah, I think we knew we needed to take him through this story to conclusion, and as a means of sort of tying up his troubled past, I suppose. But yeah, it's never been the intention to drag him through the
Up a
dirt,
tree.
up the tree. We don't want to throw rocks at him. But he is one of our, compared to the other characters, he's different. He does have that checkered past. He does have secrets. He does have, and so with characters like that, you tend to lean towards stories like that because they're, they're facing their demons, I guess, and trying to make things right. And it's always fun to see somebody who has been down maybe the wrong path is to make everything right, to try to make things right. Everyone loves that kind of story, and I understand the complications because of who he was once romantically tied to and everything. But no, certainly like brighter days are ahead for him, and we're writing, future seasons now, and or future season now, and we really like what we have in store for him. And so Lucas fans, don't worry, good things on the way. And he's one of our favorite characters, so we don't, we all love writing for him, and he's got a lot of potential. He's the governor. Think of all the things we can do with him.
Right.
Yeah.
But he wasn't initially part of that montage. There wasn't a thought to have him be a part of that, was there?
He might have been like that.
Okay.
Again, that script. Sometimes you have to make tough decisions for time, and it might seem like a little shot, but it's just, if you do that, then it doesn't balance with the other. So he may have been in there. That montage came again later in the process. I'm blanking on that right now, but we do revisit it in the next episode. So yeah, more to come for sure.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So many of us rely on Hallmark as an escape from violence on the other channels. So I think that fed into our anxiety last night. So we know how careful the network is about action scenes. But wow, this was a fantastic sequence. The leap of faith off the balcony and into the hay truck was so dramatic. We wanted to hear about getting permission to do it, and whether stunt people were involved, and anything else you could tell about us.
Yeah, I'll start by saying I mentioned that a bug was going around the crew, the cast, and a lot of people were like, there was a lot of people that weren't feeling great, and so they dealt with that through this block and a lot of these sequences. So again, kudos to the actors and the crew and the director, because they did a lot with a tough situation. But yeah, we definitely stunt people involved to coordinate all of that, and it was a long road to get there at first. So that's that really is there's a balcony above the saloon, and some of you may have been up there or around it. At first, we were told that it can't support the weight. The beams are not And so I thought to myself, I used to hang out up there a lot. Should I have not been up there? Oh my gosh. But I think they fixed that, and then okay, we can have the balcony. And so how do we get up there? And we got to, find all those maneuvers. And does this make sense that they could fall down? So, like it just went on and on about how to make this work. But we knew that the landing spot, pardon the pun, was where we wanted to be. Like that just felt like the right type of ending to that sequence. So yeah, again, a million drafts of how to make that work. But it finally came together and we all liked how it ended. And it seems like the fans did too.
We did. Well, tell us about that suspended moment there in the hay. Like, was that a director's choice, or was it the writers? Were they dazed, or was it a dream, or how was that?
I mean,
I didn't get that.
I wrote it so that we thought perhaps they were hurt. Like, so they've fallen off the balcony, even though they landed in some hay, like they might be a little bit hurt. But then there's, they open their eyes and they see each other, and it's basically, they're saying, look at you, you saved me, you saved me. But it's weird the way they shot it. Not weird, it's great. I love what they did. But there was just like this peace all of a sudden as they opened their eyes. There was just this very peaceful sense to it, which was kind of like finally, finally we're here. We made it through that. Both of them were probably worried that they wouldn't. And finally, and like almost like a foreshadowing of something more is coming. There was just like the way that was shot, I really liked. And and I think they landed safely together, and I think that was a perfect kickoff to the next thing. And again, when it was originally written, they never get the chance to finish that. But then we slowly kind of moved around like, no, this is the right time. This is the episode to finally get them there. So yeah, it all came together nicely.
Very good.
Wow. Okay. So relationships, when they work, there tend to be two ingredients, the right person and the right time. So, Nathan made a reference last night, a joke, I guess, that that he'd had bad timing. So talk to us about the feelings that the writers imagined that Nathan had. Did he really take it to heart in some way that he was responsible for it not being right the first time?
I think so. And I think that's partially why he was being cautious, and we had this slower than molasses in January effect. I think, a lot of people can relate to that, where you get really close and it doesn't work out, and it's all timing and everything, but you blame yourself and you did something wrong and you rushed it or whatever. So, I mean, no one has more reason to take his time and be cautious than Nathan, because he's already been there. And that was something we had to really carry through. Like, we constantly reminded ourselves, even in our writing, like, think back to that moment where he threw it all out there and had to be rejected. And nothing against, Elizabeth did it the way she had to do it at the time, because it was too close to Jack. It was all that stuff. But I think for him, he held that really close and had to kind of let her almost make the move, and there was a lot of debate, and like, does he make the move? Does she make? Well, I always went back to, he did make the move. He tried and it didn't work. And it really went as badly as it could go, as nicely as she let him down back so many seasons ago. But it is her turn to sort of point him in the right direction. So that's why that moment, I think, felt so earned, kind of, for both of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could totally imagine that he had played that moment over and over in his mind and blamed himself for something that wasn't his fault. It wasn't anybody's fault. She just wasn't ready. So Melanie Brown of DuPont, Georgia, said, wow, just wow. The words of love to Nathan and his response. The monologue was just so beautiful and so poetic. Samantha Faust of Sparta, Tennessee says, "How did you land on what Elizabeth said to Nathan and what Nathan said to her after the kiss? It must have been a lot of pressure for you, but it was everything I hoped for and more."
Yeah, so it was a long work in progress, a lot of different versions of it. Everyone had input as they should have. And, a lot of the best gems from Elizabeth's monologue came from Aaron. Like Aaron really brought, you know, I lean on Erin, we all do a lot because she just has lived it. She's lived that character, and with every season that passes, it becomes more, advantageous to us to lean on her because she knows what she's done. She knows what she's acted. She knows those scenes inside and out. So we lean on her, and in the end, together we all developed a sentiment that was absolutely right on every note based on what they have been through. And we also had the challenge of making it different than anything with Jack and different than Lucas. And we just, some of those lines she came up with, and other writers too, Beth, did some of those too. And Allie was helping with that. And some of those lines like, "You're home to me,"
That was the one for me. That was it. Yeah.
about it. It's just like, it's true. Like that's kind of sums it up because, she lost somebody. She wasn't ready for the new right person. She did deeply care for Lucas and tried, but like, this is finally, I've arrived back at home. And so it kind of encapsulated that. And the other one, I got, it's your smile I look for, your eyes I look for across the room, or whatever that line was. Like just that kind of stuff is like, yeah, that's exactly who these two are and how they are together. And so it was really helpful to be able to lean on Erin for that because she knew exactly what she had to play in that scene, and then they just nailed it. It was a beautiful scene.
It was just Erin played it so beautifully. She was so emotional. It was very poetic. The fact that it was at the row house just seemed absolutely right. It was just
and the fact that it wasn't her just saying, "Oh, like I'm in love with you," or there were like details of what she felt, what she saw for her to get there to that. So there were those examples that she said just created a more just like perfect moment, I think. So I really
but it was really interesting. Forgive me, go ahead.
Too. Sorry, like just leading with the apology, and then which she didn't have to apologize for anything, but like leading with that into the reasoning, like it just was, and she was bringing something different to every little level of that, and it was you could just see. I mean, she's a great actress, but you could just kind of see all of that stuff just coming through as though she's been holding it for forever. It just feels like forever. So to all come out in such a nice way. Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, she unburdened him of any feeling that he was, that his timing had contributed to it. And so with that apology. But talk to us about his reaction because he was very hard to read. She was, I wasn't sure whether he was going to reject her. And I guess in hearing the after show last night, Kevin said that he approached the scene as if, and I don't know whether this was an actor's choice or your all's choice, but he was like going to her maybe to say, given what we just went through, I don't want to be the one to put you in danger. Like, so what did you envision? And was he going to reject her?
I mean, I think if you can get that out of the scene, that's always helpful so that the audience starts going, no, like she said it. So don't chicken out now, But I think he came into it, like you said, with this, this self-induced guilt over so many things, and this fear that he had jumped the gun once before, and he comes in with all this baggage. And so the safe place was, or the safe play, I guess, was after something like that where she almost got hurt, and then, he was part of it and whatever, that he just, I don't want to put you through that again, and I would never want to see you hurt, and that's not what and for her to just flip it and just give him everything and let him off the hook, finally. And his expression is just like, doesn't know what to do. He's shocked at that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think his response then was quite appropriate, just to,
Mhm.
finally
Lean in.
lean in and then explain afterwards. But and then I've always loved that his line after that, I never stopped. And
Mhm.
because he hasn't, like, it's clear that he hasn't. So yeah, just like so many things in that scene came together. And that's what's great about this show, is you can kind of lean on everybody to say, like, okay, we have to get this one right. This is one of those scenes. So, all right, all hands on deck. What are we going to do? And of course there'll be 1,000 drafts, but I think the 1,001, we got it right.
Yeah,
I think
and
so,
in
definitely.
1,001, did you say he goes in for the kiss, and then there's a second kiss, and then there's the, around her back? I mean, that braiding his hands around her was just, it did feel like home. I mean, that was really beautiful.
And isn't that where the director and his team come in, and they find, you could have just had them kiss, a normal
Right.
kiss, but there was
Yeah.
just something like holding on for dear life, like I never want to let you go type vibe. And that's when the director and his crew, they find this magic of where it just says everything without saying a
Mhm.
word. So we're very lucky to have the folks that we do
Yes,
operating.
bravo, Peter DeLuise on this one. It
Yeah.
was,
Yeah, because
it
I know
was,
it wasn't an easy one. It was a hard one, for all the factors I've listed. With people not being well and having all
right.
sorts of challenges, and that was a night shoot. The whole thing, like, they just kind of pulled it together. So big kudos to them. Yeah.
Yeah, Aaron said it was a peaceful night, but I did see one Hardy say it looked like it might have been cold, that she thought she saw some breath.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting later in the season,
Yeah.
so yeah, those nights are never all that much fun.
No.
Beautiful. Just beautiful.
I think actually Aaron said it went till 6 a.m. too.
Oh,
Wow.
I think it
Yeah.
did. Or 4 or 5 in the morning or something like that. And just exhausting, like, and everyone was not 100%. So um yeah,
wow.
that'll be one of those. I remember all these stories from season 1 about these crazy, like, shooting in the snow and the freezing, and then it was 1,000,000 degrees in the summer. And those stories start to kind of get lore behind them. And
Yes.
I think this will be one of them.
Yeah, I remember the stories of Daniel Lissing, like the last week of the season, like being sick and like rushing out and then rushing back in. It sounded
Oh,
bad. So yeah, 6:30 a.m. for such an
yeah.
important and romantic scene is wow.
How they look so good. It's crazy. It's not
Yeah,
fair. Who can look that good at that hour? I don't know.
beautiful.
Yeah. We're just so grateful for all their hard work, for all the writers' hard work. It was a phenomenal episode. Like, everything flowed
Like,
so well. It had literally something for everyone. And shout out to the editors, because they all also do such a great job. And we can only imagine what is on the cutting room floor. So was there anything that got cut out that you wish had stayed in?
I most episodes I would probably give you an example, and it's not the editor's fault. It's usually my fault for writing too long. But in this one, I think they kept it. I mentioned that Gowan and Edwin scene that I'd been like, please, 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 if you can give me one scene, let me hold that one. But because it's scenes like that go first. They're good scenes, they're interesting, whatever, but they're not essential to the story, so they'll end up going. And so we're always I'm I love editors because they must be so frustrated with us sometimes when we give way too much material to shoot. And we do timings before they'll take our scripts, and somebody will sit down and like try and estimate how long it is, and it's not always quite right because this is showbiz and crazy things happen. And but yeah, when some of the scripts are really long, I'm sure the editors just like the writers keep it down. But no, I'm really happy with this one, and I can't think of something that I would want back in. It was good.
Yeah, it's so good. And Hearties, we saw the preview for next week's episode for the finale. And so we are excited for everything that's to come. Mike and May's wedding, which looks like it will incorporate like Chinese tradition, we saw a glimpse of her dress. Fiona's coming back, like she returns. And so we know there's a wedding. And we know there's a cliffhanger. So is there a word or, I don't know, an image you want us to be looking for that's special to you, from this final episode?
This episode, I always think of the song, the Etta James song, "At Last," whenever I'm watching cuts of it for some reason. And so like that kind of listen to that song and like put yourself in that place. I think a lot of it that's kind of the vibe, as to the cliffhanger. Hey, it's one called the heart. Gotta have a good cliffhanger. It's gonna be a fun one. They haven't shown that yet on sometimes they
No,
tease
they actually haven't given it away
Thank
yet.
All
right?
right.
But I have to say, I mean, I was thinking about this earlier today, that I don't think I know of other shows that I've watched where they actually tell you weeks in advance that there's going to be a cliffhanger. Like, Hearties, be prepared. There's going to be a cliffhanger at the end of the season. Like that, I've never heard that before. But I mean,
don't know
and it's
any other-
wonderful. But
Yeah, they share a lot. I won't say give away, else they share a lot
yeah,
about future episodes. And yes, they give you fair warning that
right.
hold
To
on to your
emotionally prepare.
coming.
I am pretty certain that Brian Bird told us there was a wedding next season when we spoke to him on Heart to Hearties after the last episode in season 10. So we've known the whole season that there was going to be a wedding, and it was very early on. I think he also gave us the cliffhanger. So yeah. So Brian is stirring the pot, and then Hallmark is dropping 16 gazillion previews, and then
Weeks ahead.
Aaron and Kevin just went to New York, and I mean, every interview had some little morsel. So yeah.
Well, because my job kind of hinges on Brian, and Hallmark pays me indirectly, I'll just be hard on Aaron and Kevin for
Okay, good. Yes.
They don't pay me, so it's I'm gonna be harsh with them. But yeah, I'm with you. Sometimes I'll look at the previews. Whoa, okay.
No, I mean, I was shocked going into this episode. People completely knew that the balcony scene and the hay, they totally knew about it. And I was like, how is that possible? Well, because the director 6 months ago posted a picture of the hay wagon. And so we pieced it together. I mean, seriously.
And the description said leap of faith. So we know that this is it. Like,
I didn't know that. I was getting all these pictures in social media of hay, and I thought people had lost their minds, and then I realized, oh, that's what they know. Okay.
Yes, they totally knew. They totally knew. I mean, yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, Hallmark dropped the photo of them in the hay, but yeah, but people put the balcony together, the whole thing. They knew. Yeah, it was quite remarkable.
Well, we'll do interviews like this, some of them live-ish, and we're careful, like, oh, can't say that, can't say this, and then I'll see it on TV the next day. Like, oh, I could have talked about that, I guess, but yeah. Hey, I don't sign the checks. They know what they're doing.
It's all good. Well, we can't thank you enough for coming in here and just spoiling the heck out of things. It's really fun.
I wish I could have given you more. Should I just spoil everything right now? No.
Yeah, no, it's
So
excellent.
on season 12, I can tell you.
You
the
guys,
cast.
I mean, it's been truly an A+ season, and we're not even done. We're not even done yet. I mean, it's off the charts, amazing, and I think what we're seeing in the Facebook is like we've never had a mystery that people generally like understood it throughout. Like they really
Right.
like there was a lot of clarity. Like they really are clear, pretty much. Now we still have questions about Montague and Pike and all that stuff. Presumably that'll get wrapped up, but
Yeah, they are tough. It's tough to track those when it's not that type of it's not exactly what this show does, but we have these stories in them sometimes as a fun little investigative, through line. And yeah, even for us sometimes we'll get going and we'll
yeah,
say, okay, what's the history here? What is it? Who's this person? Okay, gotcha.
yeah.
And that's when we get the big board worked out. And so we have our own crime board to describe our own crime board. And usually that keeps us on the track. But I get nervous in interviews like this because I think I'm going to get tested on something about the crime board.
We're not testing you. No, we're not testing.
Allie, yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. No, but thank you so much. It's been so much fun spending so much time with you this season, and
Oh,
we can't
it's
wait
been
to.
a
We
pleasure to
can't
be
wait.
with you. Thank you for what
Oh,
you do. Thanks for bringing these stories and a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff to the viewers. And you
yeah.
do such a great job. I
Oh,
hope to
thank
keep.
you. There's just so much artistry that goes into it that we feel like we could do them every day. I mean, and not even begin to cover it. There's so many talented people involved in this show, all
Yeah,
400 of you
yeah,
somehow.
it's amazing.
Um, Amazing.
Yeah.
So Hearties, we have one episode left. And I'm sure that it's going to be an amazing night. So join us, Hallmark Channel, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock Central. We're going to be on X with the hashtag Hearties. And you are going to want to subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already, because it is literally a deluge of interviews that are coming. I mean, it's every day pretty much this week. We have somebody else that we're chatting with. So please watch. We're excited to bring it all to you. Heart to Hearties. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, Hearties.